Let's say that we have two lines of code as follows. Let's go to Google Colab. And as you can see right here, the first line of code is name equals Darth Vader in quotes. We know that's a string. And then right here we have print name. Let me run this code. And it's going to print Darth Vader right here. So how do we change the contents of name from Darth Vader to Mr. Skywalker? Well, what we can do, and there's many ways to do it, is we can add a third line right here. And we can just say name equals string, and I don't have to write string as you know, Mr. Skywalker. Okay, good. Excellent. And then after this line here, a fourth line we can add, which is print name. Great. Now, if we run the code, what do you think we'll get? Well, we get Darth Vader and then Mr. Skywalker. Because what happens is usually Python reads the code in order. And I mentioned that for a reason because I'm going to make a mistake here in the fourth line. So in the fourth line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make n, capital N right here. Okay, and if I run the code, we're going to get a mistake. Okay. Python still prints Darth Vader because it's reading it in order. And then it gets stuck right here by telling us that there's an issue. Name here in line 4 is not defined because we put capital N instead of lowercase n right here. Okay, so I can either change this back to lowercase n, or I can add a number sign beforehand here, okay, to comment, or a hash sign, same thing, to comment out that line of code. Now, a faster way to comment something is to use the quick keys, which you see on the screen right here, like that. Okay, so if I were to run the code right now, what do you think would happen? Well, I get Darth Vader here, and then it stops because it doesn't read this line right here. So let me uncomment this line of code right here, and let me fix this right here, and let's run it again. There we go. Now we get Darth Vader and Mr. Skywalker as we change the contents of the name variable right here. Little side note, this is interesting. Darth Vader, since Darth Vader is Mr. Skywalker's father, I don't know if you guys knew this, it's pretty cool. In fact, his real name is Anakin Skywalker. And
Hi.
I didn't say Luke or Luca.
Yeah, yes, but my last name is Anakin.
Oh, well, Luca Anakin.
Yeah.
Do you want to teach the rest of this lecture?
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. Great. All right, let me go over here. I guess I'll can I hold this?
Yeah,
oh, geez, heavy, man.
It's fine. You're not a Jedi, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I'll use my force now to make my apprentice right here, who is not a Jedi, and we confirm that with my lightsaber, to quickly change this backdrop right here. Chris, you will change this backdrop in full speed.
I will change the backdrop in high speed.
Okay, let's discuss how to change variables data types from strings to integers. In the previous lectures, we used str for string, int for integer, and float for floating numbers, and also bool, to define our variables in different data types. Now, let's make a variable called age, and instead of 100 as it should be, let's define this number in double quotes. So I'll start right here and define age equal to 100. Now, if I run the type of age, it will say string. So yeah, an age is definitely not a string. But believe it or not, in many applications today, users will enter their age in different formats, for example, text, and instead of a real number that we can actually work with. This becomes a real problem for us programmers that we need to solve. So to convert this age variable to number, we can use a function that we all know, int. So let's start right again, and I'm starting like age equal to int of age of 100, not age, but this 100 is still in double quotes. And if I execute this, we won't get an error. Now, previously we got the type of string, but if I type again, this will say it's int, which we want. The process of converting one data type into another is called casting, and it's a very important operation that we can perform on top of Python variables to make sure our program functions in intended way. We will use this in much more detail. We'll be using this much more in the future lectures. However, casting has some consequences that we need to know to get the most out of it. If we try to convert something that cannot be converted, Python will yell at us and tell us that we made a conversion mistake. So let's try it out. For example, I'll make a variable called name that's going to be equal to Luca. And this is a string, but if I try to convert it with integer, like this, it's going to produce an error telling me that we can't convert something that is not an integer or a number to int. Another thing to keep an eye on is consequences of converting a floating number into integers. Whenever we convert a number that has a decimal point, meaning a floating into the integer, no matter how close it is to the next number, it will just discard everything after decimal point and keep the first number, which may lead to losing some precious information. Let's take a look at some examples. So first one, I'll print int of 3.0. Now, this is actually free, so this makes sense. However, when we start going into more details of, for example, 4.9, which is actually closer to 5, we expect it to go into 5, but it will just discard every information after decimal point, which is, in this case, 0.9, and keep the 4. So in this case, yes, the number was closer to 5, and if we wanted to see which one to use, this might be actually closer to 5, and we lost a lot of information right here. And that can be done also for numbers that has many decimal numbers, like 1.11445. You can use some random numbers. No matter how many numbers we have after the decimal point, everything will be discarded and just the first number will be kept. This does not round numbers, it just cuts them off. When we talk about functions in this level right here, we'll discuss the rounding function in much more detail.